Welcome to MySQL Developer Essentials series. In this video series, I have covered the fundamentals, key concepts, and some use cases of Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server and various application hosting platforms in Azure. In this video, I'm going to talk more about high availability and disaster recovery in Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server. I'm also going to explain briefly how Azure App Service and Azure Kubernetes Service support these capabilities. One of the key benefits of using a managed database service like Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server is that you don't need to configure and manage the infrastructure and the software needed to run a MySQL database instance yourself. Azure manages these components for you, and routine management and maintenance tasks such as updating the environment, managing backups, and enforcing security are automatically taken care of for you. You will also be able to optimize the availability of your MySQL databases with a 99.99% SLA while reducing the complexity of your environment. High availability, also known as business continuity, is critical to any application that needs to be running 24/7 with minimum planned and unplanned downtime. Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server supports high availability within a single availability zone and across multiple availability zones. With multiple availability zones, your application is more resilient to downtime because the service provisions and maintains a hot standby server in another availability zone in the Azure region, and your MySQL databases have improved resiliency with tolerance for single availability zone failures. The architecture of Flexible Server separates compute and storage. While the database engine runs in a managed Linux virtual machine, the data files reside on a remote Azure Premium file share. Premium file shares maintain 3 redundant synchronous copies of the database files, ensuring data durability at all times. The Premium file shares also have automatic data recovery capabilities. Similarly, the hot standby Flexible Server has dedicated redundant storage as well. If high availability is enabled, Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server will automatically fail over to the standby replica, which becomes the new primary database server. Remember that zone-redundant high availability can only be set during the time when you create your Flexible Server, whereas same zone high availability can be enabled after you create the server. It is also good to know that the standby replica cannot be used for read-only queries. However, it is possible to create up to 10 read replicas for Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server. The read replica features uses asynchronous replication, which means that there is a delay between the primary server and the replica. A common scenario for a read replica is to scale out your read queries for your application or for analytical reporting workloads. Having daily backups taken of your databases is very important because you want to be able to restore your database to a point in time in case you need to recover data after an accidental corruption or deletion. This is where Flexible Server can help you as well. Flexible Server performs daily backups of your database files automatically, and it will also continuously back up the transaction logs. You can retain the backups for any period between 1 to 35 days, and you will be able to restore your database server to any point in time within that backup retention period. Flexible Server backups are stored automatically and securely in a local redundant storage within an Azure region and in the same availability zone. And these locally redundant copies of your backup data files have multiple copies stored in the same Azure data center. If you use a zone-redundant backup storage, multiple copies of the backup files are not only stored within the availability zone in which your server is hosted, but are also replicated to another availability zone in the same region. The third option is to use geo-redundant backup storage. In this scenario, multiple copies of your backup files are not only stored within the region in which your server is hosted, but also replicated to its geo-paired region. Another great feature of Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server is automated patching with managed maintenance windows. Azure Database for MySQL performs automated patching of the underlying hardware, operating system, and database engine. The patches include new features to the services, as well as security and software updates. Minor database engine version upgrades are also automatic and included as part of the patching cycle. These patches are tested extensively and rolled out using safe deployment practices. With Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server, you can schedule maintenance during a specific day of the week and a time window within that day. You can even define different schedules for each flexible server in your Azure subscription, or let the system manage the patching schedule. With the custom schedule, you are now able to make the patching cycle predictable and choose a maintenance window which has minimum impact to your business and the availability of your MySQL solution. Azure App Service hosts your web applications and REST APIs that are written in your favorite language, such as PHP, Python, Ruby, Node.js, Java, .NET, and so on. Azure App Service manages your application environment automatically and adds many capabilities to your application, such as security, load balancing, and auto-scaling. Applications that are hosted in Azure App Service can be deployed into availability zones to help you achieve resiliency and reliability of your application. An application lives in an App Service plan, and the App Service plan exists in a single scale unit. When an app service is configured to use availability zones, the platform will automatically spread the infrastructure to host your application across all the 3 zones in the selected Azure region. Please note that if you are planning to use zone redundancy for your applications, your app service needs either a Premium V2 or Premium V3 app service plan. Zone redundancy in Azure App Service is just one of the many features that add both high availability and scalability to your applications. You will find more information about the various configurations as well as some of the best practices in Azure App Service documentation. Kubernetes clusters provide high availability by using multiple nodes in the cluster. This is also true with Azure Kubernetes Service or AKS. By default, AKS provides high availability by using multiple nodes in a virtual machine scale set in Azure, but these multiple nodes don't protect your system from a region failure. It is a good idea to plan ahead to maintain high availability and to maximize the uptime of your applications by deploying an AKS cluster in a multi-region configuration. This means that you have multiple AKS clusters across different regions, and there are several things to consider. For example, you want to choose an Azure region that is close to your users and in your geographic area, and choose 2 Azure regions that are paired together. AKS Platform performs platform updates with a delay of at least 24 hours between paired regions to improve the uptime of your application. When you use AKS clusters, you should also make sure that your CI/CD pipelines are updated with additional steps to make sure that the updates to your application and the latest code updates are deployed to all the AKS clusters. Also, you should consider using Azure Traffic Manager, which is a DNS-based traffic load balancer. Traffic Manager allows you to distribute traffic to your applications across the global Azure regions and provides your public endpoints with high availability and quick responsiveness. Traffic Manager can direct traffic to alternative endpoints in your AKS clusters while the maintenance is in progress. Azure has several great features that make it easy for you to build highly available applications with a MySQL Database service in the backend. In addition to making sure that your application is available 24/7, you want to make sure that your application has great performance and fast response times. In the final video of this season, I'm going to cover how to monitor and diagnose performance-related issues and how to optimize performance of your database workloads and applications. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you.